Welcome back to the show.
Jerk ass!
Take care, Polly Wally.
Never heard anyone in my life who's more insane than Polly.
Stop him! Stop him! Stop him!
It's on now.
You gotta be raping me!
It's PA 9 to noon on the fan. Vikings.
9 to noon. You like that? Good stuff. Just listen. Personal foul. Personal foul. Clipping. Ooh.
What in the ham fat is going on with you guys?
You got too many men out there.
No! But yes,
I'm confident that we'll be world champions. That's what I've said right from the start, and I'm still confident of that.
because 9 to noon is in the air. Happy Wednesday. Hey there. Here comes a Wednesday 9 to noon style. And on the show today, we offer some Vikes Bites, including Vikes who bite and may not be here next year.
Yeah.
The scribe, the news, the former quarterback, and Wolves head coach Chris Finch joins around 11:30. The former quarterback being Matt Castle, who's part of an iHeartRadio podcast with a man named Bobby Bones. And as I will share with Matt in the final hour of the presentation, when yours truly hears the name Bobby Bones, which can't be somebody's real name and is not, when I hear the name Bobby Bones, it feels like I'm rolling into Mancini's on West 7th and like I owe 3 people $2,000 each for a missed over-under.
I always love that one.
And you just have the money out right away because
Bobby Bones.
you don't want kneecaps to be broken.
Nope.
You're worried about bones
Yep.
and the health
Already
of
had
your bones.
Already had the metaphorical kneecaps broken in proverbial fashion by Dan Campbell,
I always love that one.
the kneecap eater.
I always love that one.
Bobby Bones. You tease the name, and then you look up at NFL Network and Good Morning Football, and there's Bobby Bones chatting with Minnesotan Jamie Erdahl. So that podcast is new, I believe, and we're really excited to chat with Matt Castle, who's the co-host. That's going to be at about 11:03 today. The scribe, Ben Gessling, shortly after 10. Florio with PFT, 30 minutes and change from now. And with that, he has a new purple-related obsession. Oh, goody.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, goody with PFT. Yeah, because around this time last year, PFT was jumping all over the Vikings not signing Justin Jefferson on what seemed to be Florio's schedule. And now that vibe has shifted to Coach Kevin O'Connell and his future here. And that's where we begin 9 to noon.
Is there any chance, as part of just looking ahead to Florio, do we bring up that he proclaimed on these airwaves a guy who he's a protectionist. He protects his heart. Mm-hmm. He has his favorite team, but he's a guy that doesn't go all in. He went all in. On the purple on these airwaves.
Yeah, and guess what happens on the other side of that?
Yeah, disaster.
Yeah, it's a 10 of 10 on the vitriol and negativity, and I happen to be the one on the other side of the microphone, and I'm really, really excited about that, but he's a 20-some-odd year uncompensated guest.
Yes.
So therefore, given his dedication to AM 1130 KFAN and FM 100.3 KFAN, I guess, I mean, it's a we. It's a 1 and a 1A. It's you and I. I may ask the questions, but it's a we. I guess we just got to sit back and take it, right?
I think we do have to, and that's one of the best parts of having him on is even when it gets contentious, it's all love. But he opened his heart for the first time in
Everybody
2 decades.
loves when it gets contentious except me.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Yeah, and then I can't look to my left to the producer studio, Eric Nordquist, producer of 9 to noon, because you're either doing one of two things. You're either laughing hysterically at an argument, or this is radio, so you can't see, so outstretch everybody, unless you're driving, outstretch, make your arms outstretched, and then wave them up like you're trying to get the crowd going.
I always love that one.
It's one of the two things, so...
Well, that's because I get to see the mannerisms. I get to see the cartoon in full effect when you get hit with something that you don't like, and it's a movable object, unstoppable force. One of you is going to win regardless every time. It is one of my favorite things when you guys take jabs at each other.
Well, if I turn my back to you today, don't take it personally, okay?
I got you.
So now, but seriously, Florio last year and ProFootballTalk.com with Justin Jefferson, that whole thing seemed to be on Mike's schedule, because unlike things that we're going to present right now regarding Kevin O'Connell and also with ProFootballTalk.com, there is a difference. And at first blush, I was like thinking about it. I'm like, okay, cool. Here we go again. With you got to get this done with potentially made up or emotionally charged subterfuge that didn't have a smoking gun. But like we mentioned yesterday, there's a smoking gun with the O'Connell situation. And if there even is a situation and an aside. Oh my God. So here's the deal. So given the season is over, O'Connell is heading into the final year of a 4-year deal as head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are 34-19 under KO, 0-2 in the playoffs, 26-9 in one-score games, second or third best in the history of the NFL with that mark, by the way. 9-1 in one-score games this year, 3-1 in overtime, 0-2 against the Rams, 1-5 against the Lions, and 4-2 against the Green Bay Packers. The smoking gun. 2 Sundays ago, while chilling on a chilly Motor City morning, boom! Fox's Jay Glazer pops with a report multiple teams are interested in trading for our coach. Oh my God. We all remember it, right?
Yes, we do.
Glazer, now, a week ago, so that was a week and change ago, Glazer, 6 days, a weekish ago, doubled down on a podcast saying this, quote, I never said Kevin O'Connell, I never said he's getting traded. But without a doubt, there are teams and the teams that are involved asking me, please do not mention us, which I have to respect. I know that one team at least is saying, man, we would gear up and trade this and that and this for this guy or a guy like this. So, yeah, there are talks internally in buildings about trying to make a run. Look, it could be a long shot. It could be a crazy idea, but it's only crazy if you don't take a shot. End quote. Now, that's real. And as mentioned yesterday, quite unfortunate it dropped day of game. The Vikings were playing for a conference 1 seed, but in no way impacted the outcome of the game. But it's just unfortunate that there's even a sliver of a distraction or something that is more than elevator music for all involved up to, at that time, the newest, biggest game of the season. Now, Glazer has covered the NFL for more than 3 decades, and in no way does 9 to Noon Incorporated believe he was making up something or lying. 9 to Noon happens to know how that game works. Info is fed to high-level newsbreakers 9.5 out of 10 times to benefit the interest of said bird chirping.
Oh my gosh, you are above average at that.
And good morning.
Good morning.
No idea where the bit originated, but we'll ask that very question of Florio when he joins in the 3rd segment today. It's about 9:40. So, unlike the wonderment over what was next this time last season for Justin Jefferson, 9 to Noon does not recall a planted smoking gun like this indicating the hot water of speculation may be boiling. Now, the aside to the smoking gun Florio dropped is this. It was at ProFootballTalk.com. It was deep in the story, and if you missed it, here we are. So Mike writes at the end of a Kevin O'Connell, Jay Glazer, just a story from yesterday at ProFootballTalk.com. Read it and judge it on your own. He writes, coincidentally or not, the Jets have interviewed for their vacant GM position Doug Mugie of the Broncos. Doug Mugie. Ever hear of Doug Mugie?
No.
Neither have I. Mugie and O'Connell played college football together at San Diego State, and they were roommates.
Oh my gosh.
Hey! Okay, so unlike Jefferson and emotionally charged on my schedule, here's how I think things should work with Justin Jefferson. And they worked out, just fine from a contractual standpoint and extension and stuff like that. That I'm calling a week ago from Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, a smoking gun. Simply because of the person who reported it. There absolutely is something behind it planted by somebody who either they have their best interest in mind, but that doesn't mean it would come from somebody on this side of the equation.
Right. It
could be somebody from somewhere just like paying off a favor somebody's done for him, trying to jack with the purple and gold vibe into at that time, the newest, biggest game of the season. But it happened. So it's a smoking gun.
Yes.
It's a smoking gun. The aside, Doug Mugie. Doug Mugie of the Broncos.
Well, and the key is they were roommates.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. I mean, it's like we never heard. And Terrace Marshall, who used to play at LSU, is going to sign with this team. And at Louisiana State University, guess who was Terrace Marshall's roommate? He's JJ! And I don't even know if they were roommates. But, there was never anything like that included with the emotionally charged bit.
Here's one thing that I would like brought up during that conversation as well, or something to dig into.
I got nothing for 1120. You got plenty of bytes?
I got a ton of bytes, megabytes.
Thank you.
I got gigabytes of megabytes of Vikes Bites. In this article, he writes the Week 18 Sunday Splash report from Jay Glazer that multiple teams are interested in trading for O'Connell wasn't idle talk.
Excuse me, I need to dim the lights.
So that's potentially so the smoking gun that you're talking about, PA, it feels real. One way or another, the self-interest of whoever is sending that information, and Jay Glazer paid at a high level to disseminate it. But this very next sentence is where I want to find out, is this coming from Glazer? Is this coming from Florio? And where this goes is there's tension in the relationship stemming largely from the fact that he didn't get an extension after his second season. So is that tension supposedly in the relationship, is that part of the info that's being sent to Jay Glazer?
That's Glazer.
That is Glazer.
That part would have to be Glazer, who, as we piece this thing together and we follow the breadcrumbs, that has to be part of it. It just, whether it's a lie or not, it just has to be part of the bird chirping, knowing that it's going to provide distraction and talkers and conversation. But said bird, said perp in this equation, holding the smoking gun, that's the individual or individuals who are looking to benefit from this equation.
Yes.
Well, that's a problem.
That is a massive problem.
It's a smoking gun.
It is.
Doug Mugie. They were roommates. So how would now, with super special Mugie, whoever he is, how would that work given the Jets have an opening right now for a head coaching position? Said super long shot trade would have to be like this, like this week, or maybe in a, let's call it a 10 of 10 impossible reality, the woebegone Jets hire a coach for 1 year.
I always love that one.
It's a 10 of 10 impossibility, but we got Muji and roommates. 10 of 10 impossibility. Maybe they hire a coach for a year or elevate somebody. And O'Connell's college roommate becomes the team's GM. They wait with a sneaky handshake. O'Connell declines all offers from the Purple, plays out the 2025, and boom, is the new head coach of the New York Jets. Well, just listen to that. The whole scenario, honestly, is just stupid.
It sounds ridiculous.
The 10 of 10 impossibilities, 10 of 10 on the stupidity meter. All right, 3-2. So that's where we are with that, all right? 9 to noon, doesn't see any way the team and coach do not get together on a contract extension. 9 to noon, has no idea if said coach is frustrated with the way things are advancing or not advancing. And 9 to noon actually is 100% vibing. Kevin O'Connell gets a sweet deal eventually from the Minnesota Vikings. The pay? No idea. Couldn't care less. Andy Reid gets $20 million a year. It ain't that. So we'll see what Florio has to say around 9:40. There will be no arguing, despite the urging of the con. But out of respect for our uncompensated weekly guest, he cares about it. And we enjoy the time he makes for the radio station, so the bid is in play. You think that's fair?
I think that's fair.
Now, again, don't know or don't care. Like, let's look at it this way. Don't know or don't care what Packers coach Matt LaFleur makes, all right? But should O'Connell be on par with LaFleur, or maybe even making more? 4-2, though.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh. You want the market rate, right? I mean, Minneapolis, St. Paul, larger market, and
inflation.
LaFleur shops at Shopko, and
everybody not getting raises from 2020 on, losing massive amounts of money,
making like 20 or 30% less
due to inflation. I mean, that's a fact in the National Football League, and a lot. It's a fact in the National Football League.
And as you're always quick to point out, any numbers that ultimately are reported are before taxes.
Hey, so I don't know. I mean, if we're looking at like a benchmark or a baseline here, Andy Reid gets $20 million. It ain't that. I got some numbers with Florio that some coaches like outside of the top 10 or something like that. If we're going to talk about somebody else's money, which is really cool. Isn't that really cool talking about somebody else? I mean, let's
I generally don't enjoy it.
Yeah, let's make it 9 to noon en vogue. How much do you make a year? See?
You first.
It's weird.
You first, and then people.
I mean, you're like, okay, well, you know, that's what you are. Dan Barrero makes this. Paul's looking for an extension. It ain't that.
I always love that one.
It's like Andy Reid makes $20 million. It ain't that. So the pay, yeah. And we'll see. We'll see where OPFT wants to take this, because those are the diseased money first chats Gucci's have in situations like this. So 9 to noon, we'll get out of the way and probably have O'Connell join the show the day he gets a new deal or somewhere around that time. Now, the analyst Pete Bursich and yours truly next will be together in a month and change from the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. And it would be really, really cool if this whole situation was settled by then.
Yeah.
So we can eliminate the weird from the chat. Kevin, your father, Bill O'Connell, was part of an FBI team that took down John Gotti. By the way, what was his bonus to the exact dollar and cent after taking down Gotti? And how much did he make a year?
I always love that one.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. They're really cool conversations to have. Kevin and Kwesi have a season closing press conference tomorrow. It's during 9 to noon. I'm not exactly sure of the time at this moment. Could be 10 o'clock, could be 11 o'clock. but it's tomorrow, and of course we'll carry it on your home for everything funky and fun. The scribe, Ben Gessling, will be in attendance at said presser and also joins 9 to noon today at 10 o'clock. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Paul Allen, mad producer, produces. You're listening to the 9 to noon radio show with Vikes Bites around the corner at FM 100.3 KFAN. And in ballyhooed fashion, it's time to give away a little money. Good morning.
Good morning. The Fan indeed wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword check. Check. And you might win $1,000. The keyword is check. A mic check. A 1212. You might win $1,000. The keyword is check at KFAN.com.
Vikes Bites.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is indeed time for Vikes Bites. And you heard Lieber there at the end of that break. Elite meat for the athlete. He's talking about Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef.
Beef!
And you can shop online. Box of meat shows up at your doorstep. Local Coburns, local co-ops. And they are indeed proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics. So thank you, Thousand Hills, Clearwater, Minnesota's finest. Thank you to the Minnesota Vikings. Unfortunately, a screeching halt type of end to the season, but a 14-win season, an interesting one at that. And I did uncover over the course of the morning some locker room related conversation. It was moving day, sadly, yesterday.
Love it.
And I have some audio from some of the players. I'm going to start with Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson, in this point, let me see here. Season ending. What does it feel like this time around, JJ?
You know, these are one of the ones that's more difficult just because, you know, if you really think about it, we only lost to 2 teams this whole entire year in the same format. So that's the most difficult thing in the process. You know, having 14 wins for the season, that's something that's very difficult to do in this league, you know, especially with all of the new moves that we made, the free agents that we have on this team. It just was that type of year to have a good chance at a Super Bowl. So that's the most tough part.
How much do you think it truly bugs him? Because he went out of his way to mention that, PA. Like, you're sitting there, you're looking back at the 2024, 14 wins. Darnold, again, we've, you know, year of his career, year of his life this year, Sam Darnold had with Kevin O'Connell in this offense. And JJ sitting there goes, couldn't beat the freaking Lions at home? Like,
yeah.
Really? Like, and then we lost to the Rams. Oh, and then everything was on the line, and we lost to the freaking Lions again?
Yeah.
And we can't beat the Lions nowadays? And Jahmyr Gibbs is getting into the end zone 9 times in like 4 games? And then we actually do that again. We go back-to-back losses against the Lions and the Rams twice. This most recent time, of course, ending our season.
Yeah.
It's got to bug everybody in that locker room if they take that moment, 30 seconds even, to just go, really? Like, these 2 teams were our bugaboo the entire season?
The Justin Jefferson, and you know, this is it's a business portion of the equation. He was frustrated from what I see, what I know, and what I'm around. I think he was frustrated more this season than he was happy because we went through that long patch where Sam forced it to him. Pick. Should have been 4 by Darby, penalty on the Jags.
Yeah.
Next game came back to the pack a little bit. Next game, 2 catches, 20 yards, massive one in overtime. But still 2 catches. So there was a long patch there where it's like they're doing this. O'Connell said on 9 to noon, you know, 2 months or 2.5 months of Tuesdays ago, that just thinking basketball, you're Steph Curry, LeBron James, Anthony Edwards, and you're getting triple teamed every single play. It's frustrating. So not frustration with the organization or the coaches or the players, just frustration.
Yeah.
Period. And there was more voiced right there as, you know, we had 4 big games. Well, all of them were big, but 3 in the regular season, 1 in the postseason. We went 0-4. And for the high enders, the stars prefer to shine when the lights are brightest. And when the lights have been bright against the LA Rams or the Detroit Lions, specifically in the last 2 games, the Vikings were, with all due respect, duds. Now, that ties into the what's next plan for the head coach. I looked back at, Zimmer was hired for the 2014 season
and
left after 2021. You know, that's all. I mean, we knew it and we lived it, and at times we loved it during that run. That was a long run. And,
it was.
And, you know, handling man, dealing with conflict and dealing with, you know, just conflict and players and staff members and stuff like that. O'Connell's a 10 of 10 compared to Zimmer. And you go 14-21 with all that. And, you know, now you know what you have when it comes to dealing with people and acquiescing and empowering and just being a kind human being when you need to be kind. Well, that's 10 of 10 with O'Connell. And then you get the results, which whatever I said in the open, 34 or whatever, those are good too. So there are a couple of stumbling blocks here. One major one. 1-5 against the best team in the division. And 0-2 against mentor guy. And the most recent one was in the postseason. So it's polarizing. Those are facts.
More from Justin Jefferson here, specifically on the QB room. What's it going to look like?
It doesn't really matter to me. It's not really something that I'm making like a big deal about. Right. You know, whoever they decide to either bring back or, you know, to have in this locker room, we got to make it work and we got to, you know, do whatever it takes to, you know, get a Super Bowl.
Do you think a guy like Justin Jefferson has the ability to knock on the coach's door, or now that it's the off season being upon us, maybe he just tosses a text like, "Hey, you want to go have a coffee or something?" And maybe he has he might not even have a final say or a say in the mix, but you think a Justin Jefferson might reach out to the coach and at least say, "Here's what I like. Here's what my favorite traits are," and maybe that lends to a certain guy entering his second season. Maybe that lends to a guy that just had the year of his career. You think a guy like Justin Jefferson can broach that topic with the head coach?
Of course, but it generally works the other way, especially with those who, you know, all coaches, no matter how standoffish or knuckleheadish they can be, they generally include their best players in massive decisions in sneaky texting or talking fashion more than people know. So, like, I guess that would involve, we're going to bring back Sam. Okay, so say it's like JJ this, Dimes that, but off all of this, we're going to bring back Sam because all of a sudden the money works better than we thought it was going to work 3 weeks ago. And by the way, I mean, I'm not like over the top negative on that because Sam Darnold came through more than Sam Darnold did not come through. But I also do elevate pressure pack moments where the last two had a pressure the games against Atlanta, Arizona, or at Dimes did not have.
I personally believe the last two actually outweigh the previous games. I believe that those moments when you encapsulate the entire 2024 is right. As cool and fun as it was.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think the last two are more important than the previous.
But I can't say they outweigh them because there's too much on the other side. You know, these are, I was the one yesterday that talked about class of competition. And we swept the AFC South, which, you know, is akin to bragging about straight A's at junior college. You were all wound up for Kirk O'Chains and you killed him. You beat Kyler, the creator, who throws punts.
Did you get straight A's at Pasadena City College?
No, in all 5 years, I think my highest GPA might have been a 2.4, but that's okay. All right, 3-2. So the what you beat is fact, but you still have to beat it. Right. And like Arizona, Budda Baker. Atlanta had Grady Jackson. I mean, they all have players who can ruin your day. So it is an accomplishment to have the most completions of 25 yards or more over the course of 16 games compared to everybody else in the game who does what you do.
Yep.
That's coaches, quarterback, and skill guys meshing for a long period of time. That does matter. But I elevate, like you said, the last two because pressure's not for everybody. And that includes a lot of people in this conversation because those were pressure-filled moments and they weren't L's, they were capital L's. So that even requires, like, if I'm working on the team side, the organization side with extensions, I want to know exactly your opinion as to why these things work the way they do. And to the best of your knowledge, why did that thing pop with Glazer day of the last game?
Yeah.
I want to know what you know. before I fork over $6, $7, $8 million a year for X amount of years. So all of that is forthcoming. All of it is real. But it's, so I don't believe Darnold will be the quarterback next year. That's just my opinion. With McCarthy and Daniel Jones, who can be the next Sam Darnold if given the opportunity. I believe he can. It's McCarthy or bust from here, man.
Yeah.
It's all about JJ now.
I'm super
about JJ
excited.
and the play action and working under center and running outside on some boots and the vibrant personality and the flowing hockey hair and
oh my goodness,
the post-game emotional interviews that he's going to have and the drive-bys with the kid. It's good. Yeah, just give it to him now.
No,
okay, I'm all done with everything. I mean, if Sam wants to work for $1, great. I'm just kidding. But it's all about JJ. And let's extend this Kevin O'Connell related conversation with Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com, and we'll get into some more locker room reaction following the 14-4 season for your Minnesota Vikings coming up a little later. But PFT, that's next on KFAN.
To noon.
Here we go, Paul! And he's P.A.
We're coming.
PFT.
Hey there, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. NBC's Football Night in America is going to be in Philadelphia Sunday for the Rams-Eagles pregame, and he joins us now. Mike, good morning. Do you think at Lincoln Financial you're going to get heckled because that's what they do out there?
Well, I think everybody gets heckled. I mean, when the bar is Santa Claus, yeah, I fully expect it, but that's fine. I get paid either way.
Right.
And some stadiums, the reception is friendly and positive. The Lions-Vikings game, the folks at Ford Field were very friendly, very nice. It's always nice to see folks out in the wild. The folks who are PFT aficionados, they're out there, and I enjoy that. And it's fun being down on the field, getting a chance to intermingle with coaches and players who are aware of PFT and who read PFT. And the one group that seems to have the highest saturation of folks who smile and say hi or come over and say hello, the officials. High percentage of officials who are fully aware of what we do and who I am, which tells you they keep close track of everything happening in the NFL. It's not just about the rule book, it's about the full existence.
Right, and I'm not surprised by that, because as poorly as they officiate some of these games, they want to win your favor, so maybe you look the other way on a story, which you never would do.
Well, and it's funny, I just wrote something about Tom Brady's obvious conflict of interest on Saturday night when he's working the Commanders-Lions game. In one capacity, he's the Fox broadcaster who, in theory, is providing honest and authentic and unbiased opinions about what he sees, and he's coming up with comments in 20 seconds or so that he has between plays with extemporaneous thoughts, presumably unaffected by any other interests he might have. Meanwhile, he's a minority owner of the Raiders who, according to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, it's Tom's show now. He's running the show. He's looking for a coach. He's interviewed both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and at some level, his desire to enhance and maximize his effort to hire either of them, one of them, is going to potentially affect his willingness to be candid. It'll keep him from criticizing them, or it'll cause him to excessively hype what they do, and the audience needs to know about it. Conflicts of interest are common, but when the media knows about it, the people who follow the NFL closely know about it, it's out there. It's part of the NFL's reality. They've placed restrictions on Tom Brady and what he can do prior to a game. Fox has an obligation to tell the audience at the outset, there's going to be 40 million people who tune in. I don't know how many of them don't know. Many don't know. Maybe most don't know. People need to know that the guy who is telling you what's happening and giving you his assessment of the play on the field has an interest that might cause him to say things differently than if he didn't have that interest. That's all it is. It doesn't mean the guy goes to jail. It just means that Fox has an obligation to let everyone know where everyone stands, because there is a very real conflict of interest.
And you've been all over this for a while, and rightfully so. And I kind of lived it a few weeks ago when Brady was calling the Vikings and Green Bay Packers game. And like you've written before, you know, those sneaky production meetings that they have where they get the A-plus intel, he's not in those meetings. He's not walking around the bottom of U.S. Bank Stadium, popping into locker rooms and talking to coaches on the side. I mean, as I learned, the NFL's very stringent about that with him in particular in these games, and so there's that. So you've been on that. But secondly, when he calls games, what do you think? How do you think he's doing?
Well, when the games are being played on Sunday afternoon, I'm at NBC in the viewing room. We're watching all the games at once. We get the audio of one at a time. So I haven't had a chance to really sit down and scrutinize his full performance. And in my mind, I've said this before, maybe to you, I know I've said it to others, it's Pat Summerall, John Madden, Al Michaels, and everyone else. And Tom Brady is in the category of everyone else. He's never going to be Madden. He's never going to be Summerall until he starts chain-smoking unfiltered Camels for the next 20 years and deepens his voice. But, yeah, there's nothing about him that makes me say, wow, hey, even if it's a game I don't care about, I need to tune in because I need to listen to Tom Brady.
Right. Yeah, and that's what Tony Romo was like during his first season when he was in those production meetings. He was watching practice. He knew what plays were coming. So thus, when he would see a red zone formation, he would know the 80% probability was this play's going to happen. He would predict it, and people were treating him like he's a soothsayer.
Oh, and others in the business were mad about it because anyone can do that. And there's a line that you don't want to cross between what you found out in a lot of conversations and attending practices where it's kind of off the record and to help you after the play explain what happened. When you're there saying, hey, look, I think they're going to do this next, you're kind of taking unfair liberties with what you found out.
Agreed.
And most of the people who tune in for an NFL game just aren't aware of that. We're aware of a lot of the stuff because we are adjacent to the sausage-making process, and you at times are in the middle of it. The average fan who just watches football games and doesn't consume talk radio, internet, videos about it, whatever, they're not obsessed with it whenever games aren't being played, those folks don't know. And that's what this is ultimately about. Because there are a lot of people in the media who want to downplay the conflict of interest. I think most of them don't even know what a conflict of interest is. It's just another chapter of post-standards America where things that used to matter don't matter anymore. The fans at least need to know. You need to know because, look, every game, part of the process of rooting for your team is evaluating everything the broadcasters say. Are they for us or are they against us? Why do they hate our team? Why do they not like our team? My son was very upset on Monday night when we were watching the playoff game because he thought that both Buck and Aikman were pro-Rams and anti-Vikings. People are always looking for that kind of stuff. So those folks need to be equipped from the outset with the knowledge that Brady owns a piece of the Raiders, that he's heavily involved in the coaching search, that he's running the show in Las Vegas, and he's trying to hire Ben Johnson. They need to know that.
Wow, that's beautifully laid out. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. And as we mentioned in the open, previewing the show, here's a question. Is your new and ProFootballTalk.com's new stop jacking around with Justin Jefferson bent going to be stop messing around with Kevin O'Connell and pay him post-haste?
Well, here's my take in the aftermath of what's happened over the past 10 days. Sunday morning, Week 18, Jay Glazer goes on Fox with a Sunday splash report that made quite the splash. Multiple teams are interested in trading for Kevin O'Connell. The inclination to those who don't really know what might be going on behind the curtain was to say, what the hell is this? That report was an indication of some tension that traces to the fact that he was not given a new contract after year 2 on the job. So he's required to prove himself, along with GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, through year 3. Now here he is 1 year away from coaching free agency, something we rarely ever see the coach take advantage of. Most coaches go ahead and do an extension and stay where they are in lieu of giving up the bird in the hand when there's only 31 others out there, and in any given year there's, 5 or 6, 7 this year that were open. But the tension is there, and I think if Kevin O'Connell doesn't get the kind of contract that he thinks he deserves, he'd be inclined to finish out his contract and take his chances. It's a big risk, but he'd be inclined to do it. So when we entered Week 18, I think Kevin O'Connell was in blank check territory as it relates to whatever he wanted from the Wilfs. The biggest challenge now is the two sides properly assessing the impact of 31-9 and 27-9 on his leverage. What does it do to that blank check? It's not a blank check anymore. So what's the number? And if they can't agree on it, if O'Connell's position is, hey, I won 14 games this year, I won 13 games my first year, I'm the first coach in franchise history to have multiple 13-win seasons, playoffs don't matter. And if the team's position is, yes, it does, and what happened in the most important games of the year is a factor in how we evaluate your compensation going forward, if they can't agree on that, then the Wolves have to decide. Do we let him finish his contract and then walk away with no compensation, or do we take a call from the Jets, for example, just to name a random team that I have no reason to think would be inclined to possibly do that deal? Do we take the call and do we work out compensation and then let them try to strike a contract with Kevin O'Connell? That's what they have to decide. If you're looking at one more year and he's going to walk away, what do you do? And, you know, the natural inclination for the average fan is to say, oh, they'll work it out, because they always do. You rarely see this where there's a contract impasse between coach and team. But that's exactly what happened with the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy, even though they try to say that there were never negotiations. Baloney. Cowboys offered him a short-term deal. He wanted a longer-term deal. It fell apart, and now he's gone. So the negotiation's happening now. Impasse. What do you do going forward? Do you run out the clock on the contract and see what happens next? Or do you listen to one or more of the multiple teams that are interested in trading for him? Acknowledging also that your trade leverage has gone down over the past two games as well.
And then you factor in something called Doug Mugie, who's with the Broncos, is interviewing to become the general manager for the Jets. And as I read at ProFootballTalk.com, PFT, Mugie played at San Diego State University with Kevin O'Connell and, in fact, was his roommate. What do you think of that aside?
Yeah, I think that if all of a sudden Doug Mugie is the new GM of the Jets, we know what the next domino might be. And you know how these things go. There's what we're told publicly, and then there's the stuff that happens behind the scenes. And the wheels are turning in New York to figure out who their coach is going to be, and that would be a pretty clear indication. No different than the indication last week when Antonio Pierce is fired by the Raiders on Tuesday. 2 days later, GM Tom Telesco is pushed out. That's a message to, say, Ben Johnson. Hey, if you're looking for alignment with the front office, you're going to have it here because it's a clean slate, and we'll hire whoever you want if that means you're going to take the job. That's how it was interpreted by many, and I think accurately so. So, you know, there's two different ways to follow football. You can just sit back and wait for the presents to spontaneously open, or you can start peeling the corners and trying to peek underneath the wrapping paper and see what's there. And, you know, if you're inclined to have that kind of information about what's going to happen in the NFL, that's what we try to provide.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. I read at Yahoo, Sean McVay makes $15 million a year. Dan Campbell's like $11 million a year on average before bonuses and stuff. So what would the steam be here? Could it be argued Kevin O'Connell should make more than Matt LaFleur, whatever he makes?
Well, here's the problem with the NFL's overall coaching pay structure. And if we ever had access to the full numbers actually paid to the coaches over the past 50 years, and if we compared that to the growth in player salary, I think we would be stunned by the growth of coach salary relative to the growth and explosion of player salary, because it's fueled by salary cap that is driven by revenue, and it's all the product of a negotiation between the players union and the league, and there's a salary floor, not just a salary cap, and you've got to spend that money. When it comes to coaches, think about this. With no salary cap, no salary floor, no union, whatever you pay your coach chews into your bottom line, chews into your profit margin. And if you're paying that coach $2, $3, $4 million more per year than you need to, that's $2, $3, $4 million less that goes into your super yacht maintenance fund, plain and simple. So I think collusion is real in the NFL when it comes to, well, a lot of things, but when it comes to holding down what coaches make. And one of the reasons it's never easy to get a clear picture, a lot of these coaches are paid by the team under the official contract, and then there's other money that's funneled to them through other companies owned by the same owner, jacking up the total compensation without necessarily blowing the curve, like a Bill Belichick. I mean, I think officially he was making in the neighborhood of 15, but he was making like 25, generally accepted from those in the business who are in a position to have an idea of what's going on. So that's part of the game, too. What is a guy actually making? So I don't know what Kevin O'Connell wants. I don't know what the Wilfs are willing to pay. My point is this. His performance, regular season, 2 of the last 3 years, is a major plus in his this is what I want category.
Right.
The Wilfs can point to the playoff performances, especially this year, and say that takes something away from it. If they can't agree on a number as influenced by the relevant factors, that's when we get to the point where Kevin O'Connell might just say, I'm 1 year away from free agency. I'll bet on myself like a player does, and I'll go be the head coach of whichever team I like the most out of all the teams that are looking for coaches next year. Again, there's a risk. There's a risk you're going to end up in a bad job. Most jobs don't come open because everything is great. So you're going into a new place after 4 years of getting the Vikings to where you want them to be. You're going into a new place and starting over. But if he's willing to do it, it doesn't matter that no one else ever does it. If he's willing to do it, that's part of the risk that the Wilfs are going to take. And O'Connell's going to want to move quickly, I believe, because if there is a trade to be done, you need to do it before the 6 open jobs and any others that might unexpectedly pop open in the next week or two, before those are filled. After those are filled, that's running out the clock for the Wilfs, and so at that point, it doesn't come down to a possible trade. It comes down to, do we get a deal done before he walks out the door? But that needs to be priority number one. It needs to be happening now. They need to be sitting down now and working this out so there's no doubt, no ambiguity, no uncertainty whatsoever about Kevin O'Connell's future with the Vikings. And I absolutely believe he should be there long term. I just think that and I don't just think, I believe that there's some stuff there that they need to work out, or this thing could go sideways. And the last 2 games could make it go sideways.
All right.
PFT.
It's going to need to be a 2-topic talker with Mike Florio, because the Dean Blandino bit I heard on the radio yesterday, I have to get to that and get your opinion before you leave. Lastly here, with 2 Sundays ago, that smoking gun. I mean, Florio's at a boutique hotel in Detroit. Glazer pops with the O'Connell trade stuff. What do you think the origin of that was? Like, where do you think it started?
Well, and I say this with a caveat. People in the business get very, very sensitive to and upset about any effort to guess at sources. And Jay Glazer will strangle me if I start speculating about his sources. Now, with that said, let me speculate about his sources.
Yeah, that's
when
fair.
the report is multiple teams are interested in trading for Kevin O'Connell. Okay, that either came from O'Connell's camp, which would be privy to the notion that multiple teams are interested because all sorts of conversations occur through back channels, even if they would officially be tampering. Either that's the case where you have one source that's feeding you the information, or Jay Glazer has contacted all of the various teams that might have been in position to fire a coach and found out by mining his contacts at those various teams, just kind of coincidentally, oh, hell, this team wants to call the Vikings and potentially trade for Kevin O'Connell. Now, I'll leave it to the audience to decide which one is more likely, but that's the universe. It's not something that fell out of the sky.
Yep.
It's not a Woodward and Bernstein situation where someone's digging through dumpsters. I mean, it's either O'Connell's camp reaching out with that information, or Glazer, while he's exploring what all these various teams are going to do, finding out independently while he's scratching the surface and digging deep with 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. Oh, wow, look at this pattern. Multiple teams are interested in trading for Kevin O'Connell. Again, it's for you to decide which one is more likely to be true.
And Doug Muji.
I always love that one.
All right, last one. I was listening to NFL radio yesterday. Dean Blandino, rules analyst for Fox, former league vice president and officials for half a decade. He said something that he said that the league never. He said, okay, 3-2. He said something the league never will share is absolutely. Officials look at in-stadium replays and just drop flags like on the Cashman face mask Monday night. How about that? If he's right, how about that slippery slope PFT Live needs to assassinate at least once a week, weekly? What do you think?
Well, and look, we used to have a structure in place, and we had the time to do it. The problem is with 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, we need a bigger boat. There was a time when we did what would we call it, after further review segment on Wednesdays, where we'd look at 3-4 calls from the week that was and really dissect the problems. But it's not just watching the in-stadium replays. It's the earpiece they have for real-time communication with the league office. And, we don't know who's in the room. We don't know who's talking to whom. There's no transparency whatsoever. All we know is the officials don't throw a flag during the play, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, there's a flag. And one of the common problems this year has been uncalled face masks. And in the off season, I fully expect the league to expand the entire replay system to include face mask fouls. It's not, for whatever reason, and I think this is negligent on the part of the NFL, it's not one of the things that can be reviewed. As we learned week 8, Thursday night, Sam Darnold gets the Linda Blair and the Exorcist treatment, and there's no flag, and then we get all the excuses. Well, look at where they're standing. They can't see it. All the more reason to have replay review. So when you get to single elimination football, I would not be surprised at all to learn, and I'm going to take Blandino's comment in a different direction. I would not be surprised to learn that the league has decided, you know what, screw the rules. In this playoff season, we don't need an uncalled face mask undermining the outcome of a game. So we see it, we're going to use it. And I go back to the Saints-Rams 2018 NFC Championship when there was blatant pass interference that wasn't called, and obviously it wasn't subject to replay review. My attitude then was, I don't care. Somebody get in the referee's ear and say, drop a flag, there was pass interference, because look at it this way. If you don't drop that flag, there's hell to pay. If you drop that flag, the only argument anyone could have ever made, the Rams could have said, oh, they violated the terms of Rule 52, subsection 1, Article A, subpart B, regarding not being able to use the replay assist or replay review system to drop a flag. Nobody's going to care because they got the call right. Getting the call right goes a long way to quieting whatever criticism you might have. So I always believe it's better to not follow the rules and get a call right than follow the rules and get a call wrong, from the standpoint of just what's right and what's wrong. And I think that in this playoff season, we will see no missed face mask calls.
Appreciate you. Call you next week.
Bye.
Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. The scribe, Ben Gessling, is in studio next.